Welcome to the Daily Markets Update by Plunger. It's August 14, 2018. 12:15 New York time. I had been thinking about starting this since a long time. And finally, I have decided to release the first one. It will cover key headlines, major economic data releases, trading instruments of my interest at the moment and data releases scheduled for tomorrow. The key headlines are: Eurozone's second quarter growth rate got revised higher to 0.4%. According to Financial Times, as per the latest estimates from the European Commission's Statistics Bureau, Eurozone's GDP was slightly better than expected in the second quarter. Eurostat's data on Tuesday showed growth between the first and the second quarter was at 0.4% and had not slowed to 0.3%.
The earlier flash reading had raised concern about a slowdown in growth in the region. German growth quickens as domestic strength beats trade risk. According to Bloomberg, Germany's economy seems to have found its feet again after an apparent shaky start to the year, suggesting some of the worries about the outlook may have been overdone. It exceeded forecasts when it recorded growth of 0.5% in the 3 months through June. That keeps solid momentum in the euro area's largest economy even as companies navigate persistent trade tensions.
However, the specter of a trade war still looms large, even after the European Union and the US pledged not to introduce new levies as long as negotiations to lower trade barriers are ongoing. The ECB said last week that if all threatened measures are implemented, the average US tariff rate would rise to levels not seen for 50 years.
German data came after the euro area's second and third largest economies disappointed in the second quarter. French growth unexpectedly failed to accelerate, after a series of national strikes dragged down output. On the other hand, Italy's expansion slowed to the weakest in almost 2 years.
China's slower credit growth underscores worries over economy. According to Bloomberg, aggregate financing, new yuan loan growth were slower in July. However, the new measure of aggregate financing is not comparable to the old index.
Amongst the other news, the Indian rupee hit an all-time low amidst a pathetic trade balance data released on Tuesday. U.S. small business optimism climbs to second highest on record. According to Bloomberg, a gauge of optimism among U.S. small business owners increased to the second highest on record as companies benefited from tax cuts and robust consumer demand, a National Federation of Independent Business survey showed Tuesday. U.S. household debt rose 3.5% year-on-year.
U.S. farm export prices dropped most since 2011. According to Bloomberg, prices for U.S. farm exports dropped in July by the most in more than 6 years as a trade war with China heated up, Labor Department figures showed Tuesday.
Gold falls below $1,200. Amongst the key data releases today, Japanese industrial production for the month of June fell by 1.8% month-on-month. But the fall was lesser than forecasts of 2.1%. Chinese industrial production for the month of July touched 6% year-on-year. However, it was lesser than the forecast of 6.3%. Also, the official unemployment rate in China hit 5.1%.
While Chinese data points are important, we can also not miss the points that China has no dearth of officials who fudge data. Eurozone's Q2 GDP showed a growth of 2.2% year-on-year. This was higher than the forecast of 2.1%. Within Europe, Germany's GDP registered a growth of 2.3% quarter-on-quarter for the same time period.
Eurozone's industrial production for the month of June registered an increase of 2.5% year-on-year. On a month-on-month basis, there was a decline of 0.7%, which was worse than the forecasted decline of 0.3%. Region's economic sentiment recorded a reading that was slightly better than the forecast. The reading is compiled from a survey of about 350 German institutional investors and analysts. Similar were the survey results for Germany's economic sentiment. Consumer price inflation for Germany were also in line with the expectation of 2% increase year-on-year for the month of July.
In UK, the unemployment rate fell more than the expectation. It fell to 4%, a four-decade low, instead of an expectation of 4.2% for the month of June. Red Book Index figures for the US are showing a healthy upward trend in same-store sales growth. The latest reading released today registered an increase of 4.5% year-on-year. The Red Book Index is a sales-weighted of year-over-year same-store sales growth in a sample of large US general merchandise retailers representing about 9,000 stores.
The Indian rupee fell to an all-time low today. Trade balance data for the month of July was pathetic. However, the wholesale inflation for the same month rose by 5.09%, which was lesser than the median forecast of 5.24%. India's CPI inflation figures, which were released yesterday, too recorded a lesser increase than the forecasted ones. While the forecast was a 4.51% increase, that actual figures came out at 4.17%. However, the WPI fuel inflation is skyrocketing. It hit 18.1% for the month of July. The food inflation was at -2.1%. The WPI manufacturing inflation is near a 5-year high, 4.26% according to the data released today.
Amongst the instruments of my interest at the moment, USD-CAD may soon give another sell signal tomorrow. I will be watching it closely. Gold is already in doldrums while the USD-JP pair may generate a buy signal today. However, all decisions on execution of trades will be taken at the time of market close.
Amongst the data releases scheduled for tomorrow, the key points are inflation figures for the UK, industrial production, and retail sales for US. Apart from that, we will also get non-farm productivity, New York Empire State Manufacturing Index, business inventories, and crude oil inventories from US.
In addition, there will be a speech by Weidmann. Markets in India will remain closed to celebrate the kicking out of London Queen on August 15, 1947. That's all in this update, guys. See you tomorrow and have a nice day.